People don't know that Ethiopia, aka Abyssinia, was the first African country to call African Americans back to their homeland. Empress Zatu was the first queen of kings of Ethiopia from 1916 to the 1930s. Zatu wrote a letter also known as the Call to Africa. This letter was an open invitation to African Americans and other African descents to return to Ethiopia, their ancestry homeland. This letter offered land grants and Ethiopian citizenship to those who returned. Zatu also stressed the importance of preserving African culture and heritage. This letter resonated with Marcus Garvey. He was a prominent Jamaican African leader who saw Ethiopia as a symbol of African pride and independence.
I wouldn't go back. For $100 an hour job, I wouldn't go back.
Interesting.
I would not go back at all.
We live better in Africa than you're living in America. The same house in Africa, you wouldn't even be able to be in it in America. You see? So, you have help. You have, I've had friends come and be shocked. Oh, you have fancy cars. Oh, you have big houses. Yeah, did you think we were living in trees? We're not.
Can you emphasize on that for me? Maybe if you can go deep into what you're saying.
Well, I mean, they're just surprised at the level of life that we live.
Can go deep into what you're saying.
Well, I mean, they're just surprised at the level of life that we live because they've been told so many things over the years. And it's getting worse now as they're trying to kill Black history in America altogether. But if you even look at the statistics, statistically, most of their physicians are Ghanaians. Most of their people high level doing anything are African people. So, that's why they're evil and salty about it. And now they're trying to, shut down students going and all that kind of stuff because, let's face it, Black don't crack and it dominates whatever it decides to focus on. It's just as simple as that. We decide to play golf, we run golf. We decide to play basketball, we take that over, tennis, football, whatever.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing fine. Now, this is a letter from Ethiopia. Now, the Ethiopian government is addressing Black diasporans wherever they are, that they should come back home, that there is everything in Ethiopia, you can come and invest here, that this is the place to be. So let's watch this video and have a quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna tell you, for years and years working with some lovely people, they still don't get the concept of what happened to us and the effects of oppression.
Wow.
They can't. It's a strong disconnect.
Why did you decide to leave the church?
Because that was one of the blinders that I had on, where I couldn't even really see what was going on in America. I was so busy trying to love everybody and accept everybody, but not really loving and accepting reality. I was living in a hopeful place that people would change, but people are not changing. So the same Jesus that was taught to us on the plantation was the same Jesus that you got taught over here during colonization.
Wow.
So if it really didn't do your country good as a whole, it didn't really do much for us in the plantation either.
Wow. I used to say in America it's still a plantation.
Oh, it's still a plantation.
Really?
It's still a plantation. It's a high dollar plantation. I was in a beautiful slave quarters. You see what I'm saying? I had a job where they told me when to come in, what to do, when to take off, when I could spend time with my family. See, they changed out for me, my opinion, the whip got changed out for a living wage. It's the same thing. So they don't have to take the whip and rip away flesh now. They can just take that wage and say, hey, you don't do what I say do, I'm going to take away this money from you. So I gotta work for you if I want to feed my family. I gotta listen to what you say do. I gotta do exactly what you say. If I stand up or do anything different, lashes. Take away wages.
Wow.
And they'll do it so much to where they'll throw me in a hole. So on the plantation, if the slaves weren't obedient, they will get beaten. They'll get put in a hole. They'll get put into solitary confinement, or whatever kind of punishment place that they can put for them. Right? So for us now, they don't have a hole. It's called debt. So if you're in debt, now you can't make moves. You can't do anything. Now you got to feed your children. Now I got to do something illegal. If I get caught doing something illegal, now I'm going to jail. Now, what happened in the plantation? I can't take it no more. I'm getting lashes. Now I need to cheat. I need to do something that's what you call illegal against that system that was put on you. Oh, now you're getting hands and foot chopped off for it.
And this was the start of Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, which actively promoted the idea of returning to Africa. Zatu's letter helped influence the Pan-African movement. As her letter is hard to find online, I got in contact with the researcher Julia Bonanchi, who sent me an excerpt from her book that mentions. She first explained how the invitation left some traces because it was shared during the UNIA convention. As is mentioned in her book, the Queen of Abyssinia assured them of cordiality, which I invited them back to the homeland, particularly those qualified to help solve our big problems and to develop our vast sources, teachers, artisans, mechanics, writers, musicians, professional men and women.
Empress Zewde wrote a letter called Call to Africa. This was addressing African descendants that were taken away from Africa or sold by some of our own sellout ancestors. Empress Zewde was communicating reportedly with Marcus Garvey to open Ethiopia, to bring African descendants to their home. Unfortunately, it never happened because Empress Zewde was unalived and Marcus Garvey was deported, right? So this part of history that happened in the 1920s is hidden to the point where even Pan-Africans don't know about this. You might say, why is it so important this happened in the 1920s? It's relevant because it shows what kind of unity and solidarity was there even in the 1920s. Even in the 1920s, our people were trying to come together. But it never happens because it's a risk for others. It will bring total chaos if us, Black people, come together, if we help each other, if we build each other. It's a threat. We just don't know it. We just don't see it. And a lot of our history has been hidden from us. Usually we hear about the divisiveness and the hate that we have for one another, and they highlight and they show us when we don't like each other. Even the algorithm pushes that toxicity that is between certain groups of people, and it pins us against each other. I believe history is there so we can learn from it, and we can improve, and we can do better. And this history for me is relevant because it shows us that there's an enemy that doesn't want us to come together. Our ancestors actually wanted to reunite, wanted to come together and work as one. But each time they tried to do that, it was shut down. Anyways, fam, let us know down below what your thoughts are about this history. Did you know about it?
Here is why African Americans are moving to Ghana. Ghana was the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to gain independence, and this was under the leadership of Kwame Nkrumah. It is this status that motivated the migration of African Americans. They looked up to Ghana as the new promised land, compared to how they were unfairly treated in America. The country served as an inspiration to people of African descent, whether they were originally from Ghana or not. American civil rights activist and writer W.E.B. Du Bois also settled in Ghana till his death, and he was buried in Accra. At the time of migration, he and some other activists moved to Ghana to contribute to the development of the country and also escape racism in the United States. Kwame Nkrumah welcomed the African Americans into the country, and he even brought the civil rights activists into his inner circle as advisors and political allies. And since that time, more African Americans have applied for permanent residence in Ghana. To encourage their migration and visits, the country decided to offer them a special visa. We're also aware that many Americans visited Ghana last Christmas. Will this be their regular destination?
I wouldn't go back. For $100 an hour job, I wouldn't go back. I would not go back at all. Getting up in the morning, doing what you have to do, and rushing to go and punch the clock to make somebody else rich. You get to decide what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. And us, we work really hard. So it pays off because we're working for ourselves instead of giving all our energy and everything to somebody else to make them rich so they can live a good life. In the US, we're kind of groomed to be an employee. You know, work for someone.
Like my friend said, he is in Ohio. He said, I have tried four times and I have to go back.
Really?
Yeah, 4 times. He said, man, I wish I can do it. Everybody wanted to come home. About 90%. Who wanted to get up in the morning and go and clock and, I mean, stress? No, everybody wanted to come home, but they're scared that when they get home, the money will get finished and then they have to go back. You know, when you are in overseas, you might think that people like you, family members love you. But when you come here and stay, their attitude is different. Yeah, I think Ghana is expensive. Ghana is not what you think. When you convert the money to dollars, you might think that it's not expensive, but the money runs like river. So when you come and think that Ghana is cheap and you are coming to spend your money, like United States, you can't last. You will go back. Now, I don't think about to become a millionaire. I just want to live my simple life. If I can buy something,
This is not the first time we've heard of a country welcoming back Black Americans, welcoming back African diasporians and Black diasporians. Now, this country called Ethiopia is one amongst many others which have done this in Africa, like 2 or 3 other countries have done that. But the message is clear that Black people were taken from this continent, and most of them, the majority of them, were being sold by then greedy chiefs, by then greedy leaders. Then they were ferried to the other side of the world where they went as slaves. So many of them lost their lives during the process. And these are the people who built Europe. These are the people who built the the great American that we know today. Now, we've heard stories of the return of American blacks or Black diasporians, but which has never happened. And you might be asking yourself, why is it not possible, or why is it so difficult for our own brothers to come back home? Many of them are willing actually to come back home, but there are so many things that are putting them on the edge not to be able to come back home. One is most African countries have made it so hard to acquire a fully acknowledged passport which can take you or can last you long in Africa, or which can later on grant you permanent residence in Africa. Many African countries being led by puppets are afraid of our own Black brothers and sisters in the diaspora. They know if they make it so easy for them to come back, that they are coming to educate the masses of Black people in Africa, that they are coming to bring development, they are coming to bring the light that was lost in Africa, and things will actually change for them. And in fact, they do not want our own brothers to come home. Just but a few like Ibrahim Traore and the president of Mali, and the president, the state of Ghana, which has actually shown that it is good to welcome back our brothers and sisters who have been in the diaspora for so long. Now, our Black brothers and sisters in the diaspora, not all of them are even able to actually manage to come back home because of the finances, because some of them do not have actually a good living in the diaspora. Some of them have been actually been facing a hard time paying taxes, and you just know the taxes in the US, the taxes in Europe are very crazy. You have to pay your mortgages, you have to pay for your vehicles loan, you have to pay for your phones loan, you have to pay for so many other things which are very unfamiliar in Africa. So that's why sometimes it is so hard for them to come back home, because even the expenses of moving their family back here is so much expensive. But now I'm here to talk about the main thing why we do not see much black people or more black people in Africa from the diaspora. Now, there has been a notion which is being propelled by the mainstream media of these Western countries, which include CNN, BBC, and so many other, NBC News, and so many others, which have created a warlike thing that the Africans, the black people in Africa, do not want the black people in the diaspora, that the black people in the diaspora do not respect the black people in Africa. So they are trying to create grudges between the black people of the black descent, so that it might be so difficult for you and your brother who is in the diaspora to sit on the same table and share a meal, or be in the same session and actually come to a very common conclusion of a given discussion. So these are the things that most black people do not understand, that we do not have an idea of. Most black people in the diaspora have not been to Africa. So all they know is from the social media. And you've seen how they have tried to paint the picture of Africa, that Africa is a jungle. They go to slums in Africa, the worst places in Africa. Those are the only points that they are trying to upload YouTube videos. And it's for this case that our black brothers and sisters think Africa is hell. That when you come to Africa, there is no peace. People are fighting day and night. That when you come to Africa, life is so hard. It is so unbearable. That the people in Africa are so primitive. But there, that side of Africa that has never been shown on TV, that it has never been shown, because if that was the case, why will people like Elon Musk, why will people like Bill Gates and the rest invest in Africa? Why would they have satellites in Africa? Why would they have so many things in Africa? They do that so that our own brothers cannot come to invest in Africa, so that they remain to be the sole proprietors of businesses in Africa. And it is for this case I came to learn the letter that was written by the Emperor Haile Selassie back in the 1960s. It was never disclosed to the people of black descent living in the diaspora until late 2004. He was begging for the people in the diaspora to come back home, to come back and invest in Ethiopia, to come back, and he was apologizing on behalf of the people of Ethiopia that this is not whatever we wanted for our own brothers to be kidnapped, some of them being sold. We wanted the best for our own brothers. And he was saying Ethiopia is welcoming every black people in the diaspora who wants to come home. The same thing we saw Nana of Ghana trying to do. This is the same thing Ibrahim Traore is trying to do, and is trying to simplify on the best way to get a very cheap passport to come to Africa and to come to Burkina Faso. We should be appreciating these kind of leaders, because we've had leaders in Africa who, instead of supporting black people in the diaspora, they have actually gone against the black people in the diaspora. So, black brothers and sisters, as much as we are talking about black unity and coming back to Africa, we should first start by acknowledging that there is no envy, there is no grudge between Africans in the continent of Africa at home and black people who are Africans on the other side of the world. It is the mainstream media that is trying to show you that, and that's how the Western countries have been trying to divide and rule black people. So this is the time. I feel like I wanted to share about the letter by the Queen of Ethiopia, that she was addressing black people in the diaspora, that you should come back home. We welcome you back in Ethiopia. We want you here. We want you to come and invest in this country, that we want to see the best out of you people, because you've suffered a lot, and this is the time to come and feel that motherly love by Mother Africa. So let's unite and let's have a clear vision on whatever we want and what do we really need for black unity. Thank you so much for having taken your time to watch this video. I appreciate so much.